Hey everyone, it's Krystal here. So, how do you get through or past the pain when it's caused by your parent, your mom and your dad? And we have to really work through this on a really deep emotional level. And when we look at the circumstances, when we look at the situations that cause you to feel this way, and it could be multiple, it could be many, it could stem all the way from childhood, and it could be into your young adulthood, and even into your adulthood. And it can follow you along this whole entire time, which affects the relationship that you have with your parent, affects the dynamic that you have with your mom or dad, and also affects the way your relationship is as an adult, as well as how you feel about yourself. So the relationship with yourself. And when we look at those things that were done upon us from a child, it can go way back when, because these things stemmed from quite some time and could be quite impressionable upon us from that age. And it could be perhaps a divorce that happened in your childhood, or some trauma that happened, or maybe your parents were fighting all the time, or maybe they were, somebody was an alcoholic or had some substance abuse. Maybe somebody was always, never home. It could be various amounts of things. And we bring that idea, we bring those situations with us through life and start creating this lens about them and start feeling certain ways towards them. And they're certainly valid, definitely valid. But at a certain point, if you want to progress with life, if you want to have a different relationship, a different dynamic with this parent, then it really requires you to work through the situations and the problems that you had gone through with them and look at it through a different magnified lens. And really, let's look at it deeply to see how it really truly affected the way you felt in life, the way you grew up, the way you think in life, as well. How does that affect the relationship dynamic with that individual? And when you start working through it at a very deep emotional level, you can start releasing those problems. You can start putting them truly in the past and not bring them around with you anymore. You slowly start identifying differently, not by those past situations and how you feel about them, but towards how you want to feel, and start creating new memories, new moments, and start thinking on a different playing field with this individual. And when you also start working at releasing it, you start feeling different about yourself. You start looking at life through a different lens. You start looking at the person through a different lens, and you already start cultivating a better sense of yourself, start connecting deeper with yourself. And that may or may not lend to connecting with that individual. It really depends on how you want that relationship dynamic to flow. But working at releasing the emotional pain that you have carried with you all this time, and really coming to a deep understanding that they just did the best that they could. They didn't know any better. They didn't realize how it would affect you. And this isn't about making excuses for their actions. It's about working through why they did what they did, and may never knowing, but also choosing to forgive them so you can move on and move forward in your life in a way that better suits you and better meets your needs as well. Sometimes our parents just didn't realize that what they did or how they were, or the circumstances that we went through, really affects us at such a deep level, and not only a deep emotional level, like on a cellular level as well, because that trauma, that pain carries along with us. And when we continue carrying that on, and then life tacks onto it, perhaps you have challenging relationships with others, perhaps you don't have relationships with others, perhaps you have a hard time connecting with others, perhaps you have a hard time feeling good about yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror. All of these factors, they accumulate through what you have gone through in your life. And your parents, unfortunately, just didn't know any better how that would deeply affect you at that time. But it takes a minute. Yeah, definitely takes a minute to get to that higher level of understanding. But first, work through the emotional pain that you've gone through the trauma, through the difficulties that you faced with this parent, with this individual, and then allow yourself then to move to the next stage of having a deeper understanding of what's going on, who they are, and really come to a point where you can forgive, knowing that they just didn't really know any better at that time. They didn't have the resources at that time. Perhaps they just did the best that they knew how they could. But coming to that level of understanding starts with releasing the pain, so then you can get there and start building more compassion for yourself, which builds compassion for them. So I hope you're able to get some value out of that today. I'll see you soon.